and we can have those conversations and we can truly be present with what they're saying. And I think people just want that connection. They need that connection. And that's what we need in our space to have that culture that's going to give that positive energy and that's going to make people feel fulfilled in our business. And it's going to retain our team, but it takes practice. So we have to maintain and have a composed demeanor, even when tensions are high. How many people know as the leader that our energy is contagious? And how many people have experienced like a major crisis in your salon? And because you as the leader stayed calm and collective and made it seem like it wasn't a big deal, your team did the same. Even though you were dying inside and you're like, what am I going to do? This is so dramatic, right? Like I just had an unhappy client about extensions. She purchased extensions. She did not care for the extensions. She had the extensions for 4 months. They fell apart because she did not take care of them. She did not use the proper product. She did not do all of the things. And then she was a crazy person and she wanted me to replace all of her hair for free. And she was abusive to my team members. And I just was like, I'm not doing it. If you're going to be abusive, it's just not, I don't want you in my business. So of course my stylist is freaking out because she might lose a client. My, co-stylist is, freaking out. My salon coordinator is freaking out because she's getting verbally abused. And I, as a leader, I'm just like, okay, we're just going to come up with a solution and we're going to solve the problem. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to do A, B, and C. And they're like, okay, all right. I'm cool with that. Now, if I were to like kind of dig into the reactivity, oh my God, I can't believe she said that to you. Oh my gosh, that's so rude. Oh, you don't want this as a client anyway. You know what I mean? Like the energy would have been different. It would have fed that reactive energy. And as a leader, it's our job to cut the reactive energy and turn that into proactive energy because it's going to shift the energy of your team. I can honestly say, since I've really practiced all of these things in my business, anytime I make a change in my business, my team is just like, okay, we trust you. No worries. We'll figure it out because of my energy. My energy is calm. It's composed. And when we handle things in that way, our team learns from us. Our team is going to repeat the same behavior that we have. Just like I repeated the bad behavior of my old salon owner, it's the same for our team. They're like little minions. So how we are in our business is how they are going to be. Because if you have people that are in your business that truly look to you as a leader, they're going to mimic what you do because they want to be like you, because they want what you have and they want to learn from you and they want to grow from you. So we have to remember that staying calm and composed again, is going to set the energy of the space. It's going to set the energy for the team. So some things that you can do is walk away, pause, come back to it. That's my big thing. We can do breathing exercises. Sometimes I'll go in my office and just like do like a 5-minute meditation to calm down, let that consciousness come through. Sometimes we can, just sit for a minute. Sometimes we can just turn and ask questions. So that gives us a moment like, what do you think about this situation? How do you think we should handle this situation? So that'll give you time to compose yourself and bring you back and then kind of bring that energy down. So really making sure what kind of turns that reactive energy into proactive is something as a leader that you should know, like your little tips and tricks to bring you back to center. So I think this is one thing that a lot of you touch base on, and that's being assertive, not aggressive. It's the way that we say things and how we say them and the energy that we put behind our words that's going to matter, right? I think one thing is removing the emotion, removing the anger, removing the anxiety, and that is going to help you come off as assertive and matter of fact. We always, as salon owners, want to go to and stick to the facts, right? Because there's a lot of emotions that happen when we need to hold our team accountable. For example, let's go back to the dress code. We have somebody who's not adhering to the dress code, right? And they're every day, we've had conversations with them, they're not adhering to the dress code. We're super annoyed and we start to put emotion behind it. I don't know why they're doing this. I don't know why they don't listen to me. They must not like working here. Why do I have to have this conversation 10 times? This is really making me angry. I feel this person is being disrespectful. Like all of these feelings kind of come up, right? And they kind of lead to resentment. They kind of lead to anger. But when we take the emotion out, the matter of fact is, this person is not adhering to the dress code. I've communicated the standards for our dress code, and my accountability or my action plan is verbal warning, written warning, and letting them go. Like those are the facts of the business, right? Those are the facts of the business. So when we take the emotion out, it's, hey, I've had this conversation with you 3 times. Moving forward, if I do need to have this conversation again, I'm going to have to write you up. The fact of the business is that the way you dress does matter, and it affects the entire team. And if I'm holding everyone else to this standard, I also have to hold you to this standard as well. And I know this is something that is affecting your business. I can see by your numbers and I can see by your retention. So moving forward, I need you to do A, B, and C when it comes to the dress code. If you have questions, please let me know. If this is something that doesn't work for you, I completely understand. Maybe this isn't the right place for you to work, but I know that this is what I need from you in my business. And that's it. Like, it's very just matter of fact. Like, these are the rules. You're not following the rules. I would like to work on this with you, and let's work it out, or let's move on. Right. And sometimes we get so scared to have these conversations, and we get so scared to hold people accountable because of the fear of loss of revenue, the fear of loss of respect, the fear of loss of trust. But I can honestly tell you, when you do this in your business the right way, you don't have to ask your team to do anything. They just follow the rules because they know they can't get away with it. They know that it's not acceptable. And for the most part, like, you have to say it to them once, and if they want to work for you, they'll make the changes. And I think it's just that. And it is really going to give you so much freedom in your business, and it's going to hold the team accountable. When you're not there, you don't have to worry about what's going on in your business, because you just know that they're going to do what they need to do. So now, me saying to this person, like, that was assertive, right? The way I shared that, me saying, I just don't understand why you can't adhere to the dress code. Why do I have to say this to you 3 times? I just don't understand why you're not listening to me. This is really hurting your business. And next time you do this, like, there's going to be a consequence. Now, when I say it that way, that's kind of being aggressive, right? That's not really being emotionally intelligent. It's not matter of fact. There's a lot of feeling behind that, right? A lot of reactivity. It's not going to give the stylist the feeling of, respect. It's not going to probably get you the response that you want. Is probably just going to put the stylist into negative feelings, and they're just going to feel bad. They're not going to hear what you're saying. They're going to close down, and you're going to lose that trust. So being aggressive is not something that is going to help grow your business. It will, I would say, probably solve the problem, like, not long-term basis, like more short-term. Every time we make somebody feel reactively negative in our business, it breaks down that trust. And when we break down that trust, that's when we start to lose the team member. So holding them accountable in an assertive way is really not going to break down that trust. It's just going to give them that feeling of, oh, okay, she's holding me to the standard. Oh, I better do this. Can't slack now because I know that I'm going to get in trouble and I want to work here, compared to, like, really kind of belittling somebody and making them feel less than. That is reactive, and that's not going to give you long-term success in your business. Okay. So clearly communicate your concerns and boundaries. And again, this is something that should be done on your onboarding, right? Like, when we are very clear, when we interview people, when we onboard people, and on a regular basis, clearly communicate the standards of our business, then when somebody isn't doing their part, they know it. They already know it. And it just takes that one time for you to say something to bring them back to that level, right? But we have to clearly communicate the things that we expect. Otherwise, people don't know. Sometimes people don't know that dirty gym shoes, a t-shirt, and jeans isn't professional. Sometimes they don't know, right? So we have to assume that we need to explain everything in layman's terms, in the simplest form, so that every person understands what they are in our business, so there's no miscommunication. So when we are also communicating using I terms rather than you. When we say, you're not doing this, you blah, 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 you da-da-da-da, then that usually will make them feel like we're attacking them. When we say I statements, like, I see that you're not wearing clothes that are up to our standard for our dress code. Moving forward, I would like you to do A, B, and C. How does that sound? Can we work on this so that this doesn't happen again? Because I know this is affecting your business. So using I statements directs the conversation in a way that isn't as intimidating, it's not as threatening, and it doesn't come across off as like being attacked, if that makes sense. Okay, so we want to focus on the problem, not the person. So what is the problem that you're dealing with? What is the standard that isn't being met instead of the person in itself? So address the issue at hand and avoid personal attacks. And we want to not bring up past grievances unless it is correlated with the current situation that you're dealing with, or unless it is a multiple offense thing, right? And when we do bring up past grievances, it's usually just to bring facts into the conversation. Last week on Thursday, I also saw that you were not up to dress code. And I see that today you are also not up to dress code. That's a fact, right? Like, we have to keep it to the facts to bring it into the conversation. And this will help maintain a constructive decision focused on finding a solution and not attacking the person. So developing problem-solving skills, we have to be open to collaboration with the other person or group to identify the root cause of the conflict and brainstorm potential solutions, and be open to compromise and explore creative ways to resolve the issue. Most of the time in our business, we know how to solve the problem. We just know, right? But sometimes in order to truly solve the problem, we have to put it in the hands of our stylists. So asking them what their thoughts are and how they would like to resolve the issue, or moving forward, what is their plan to create a different result, is going to help them develop their own problem-solving skills. And it's going to, again, put the responsibility to level up in their hands. Even though we may not like their solution, we can compromise with them. We need to be open to brainstorming and be open to them really solving the problem so that in the future they can develop problem-solving skills so they can solve things with ease on their own, because that's going to bring us freedom as well. But really, like, as salon owners, sometimes we can be micromanaging, and sometimes we can be like very like, I want it my way because my way is the only way that works. In reality, we have to remember that's not always the case. Sometimes our stylists will have better ideas than we do. Sometimes our stylist will come up with a better solution. And this happens all the time for me with my stylist, Amanda, all the time, where I'll give one of my stylists a solution, like, or an idea. Like, for example, this is silly, but one of my stylists was struggling because her client wanted low lights and she's a blonde, like a bleach blonde. We know what that is, right? Like, who's experienced giving low lights to a really blonde client and then they're too dark? So I was like, well, you should try this. And then my stylist, Amanda, was in the back room. She's like, no, don't do that. Do it this way. And I was like, Amanda, that is a much better way. And I think it'll be a better outcome. Like, I love that idea. Like, I encourage that in my salon. I encourage speaking up and sharing your idea, even if it goes against mine. Because the way that she came up with the solution, I recommended like skipping, and just like doing like just a few at the top. And Amanda was like, no, just put a couple on the side so that the blonde falls over, but then she still has dimension. Her way was much better than my way, right? Like, she'd still have dimension, but she'd still feel blonde. So I encourage really having open collaboration in my salon. Whereas if I was like a micromanaging salon owner, I probably would have shut that idea down and say, no, do it my way. My way is better, which is what a lot of salon owners do. And that's just a small example, right? So we have to remember there are certain things that like we don't collab with our team, like the way we run our business, rules, regulations, standards. But when it comes to certain things in our business, open collaboration, again, is going to build that trust and it's going to grow their capacity. How many people like throughout their lives have just kind of been told to be quiet, their opinion doesn't matter? what they have to say isn't important. Like so many people. I mean, I've dealt with that like my whole life. So when we can make people feel important and special and that their ideas matter, that's powerful for our business. And it's powerful for our team. And it's powerful for you as a leader to build that trust and that connection. And that's what our goal is. Okay, choosing the right time and place. I was horrible at this, literally horrible. Like my stylist would do something wrong and they'd be with a client and I would like reprimand them in front of the client. Like, don't do that. Why are you doing that? Like, just so you know, like this isn't going to work. And totally not right time, right place, because I didn't have that control of my reactive response, right? I was just letting my emotion and my fear run my business because I was so afraid that they were going to mess up people's hair. I was so afraid of bad reviews. I was so afraid of refunds. Like all of these things were like just driving my business. Fear was driving my business, which really made me choose the wrong time and place, which is going to really break down that trust you have with your team. So choosing a time and place is a crucial part of conflict resolution. I would say that you need to address it immediately when possible, but always in private and always in a safe space. And if you don't have time in the salon in person, I always say FaceTime or like a video chat is the perfect way to address something immediately so it doesn't go unnoticed and so it doesn't go unresponded to. Because that way they can see you, they can see your facial expressions. But I think even if you can't do FaceTime, like a voice memo where they can hear the inflection in your voice, never text message, never email. I feel like, written things can be misconstrued and taken the wrong way. So this is a crucial part of conflict resolution. We want to address conflicts when all parties are calm and in an appropriate setting, safe setting. And that's going to be a place that has minimum distractions and allows for open dialogue. We also have to be willing to forgive and move forward. There was something that happened in my business, and I hope you all don't mind me sharing experiences because I feel like, it helps you kind of resonate more. There was a huge mistake my manager made when we were transferring over to software. So we were selling some things online for a little bit, and there were people buying from other states, which there are different tax brackets for other states. So my manager, instead of just hooking up our credit card processing for our online sales, she hooked up the processing for our service sales to this website. And it caused this website to automatically send $8,000 to the IRS for sales for things that were not supposed to be taxed on. So $8,000 got taken out of my account and I had to wait months to get it back. I was really angry because it was a really dumb mistake. I'm like, why would you hook up our one credit card processing when we don't sell items or retail in the salon to this thing that is a retail focused thing? I was very angry, right? And she thought she was going to get fired because it was a big mistake. If I was not financially prepared or set up in my business, she could have crippled my business and I could have not have been able to pay payroll, essentially, if I did not have savings. Like she literally drained my account, my checking account. So it could have been detrimental to my business, right? But things like this happen and people make mistakes. And I was just like, okay, this was a big mistake. Personal responsibility. I could have set this up myself. She's a human. I am going to be empathetic and I'm just going to figure it out. So I figured it out. It all worked out and I forgave her. I had to be willing to forgive her for her mistake. And again, use those tools like empathy, critical thinking, like all of these things to solve the problem, right? I could have really gotten sucked into my emotions, my anger, my fear, like all of those emotions could have taken over in this situation, right? Because that was a big mistake. And that again could have financially crippled my business if I didn't have it set up or if I didn't have a resource in order to pay my payroll that week, right? Or rent, that could have been my rent. So we really have to make sure that we are understanding and that we know that mistakes happen, and knowing when it's a mistake or if it's something that is like a criminal offense that they need to get fired, right? So this is going to create a great work environment, and this is going to release grudges. We have to forgive the other person. I could have been really angry at her. I could have treated her poorly because I was frustrated, and I didn't. But that takes a lot of skill, right? That takes a lot of practice, a lot of working on your emotional regulation, personal responsibility, all the things that are so important to you as a leader. So we need to focus on moving forward and help resolve the conflict and effectively maintain the healthy relationship. I know I do not want to do business without my manager. She makes my life so much easier. She literally does not need to be asked anything. She will go into the salon without calling me. She handles so many things for me that I know that I don't want to do life without her. She's been with me for 10 years. I don't want to do life without her. So I'm just going to make sure that I am doing everything I can to nurture that healthy relationship so that she stays inside of my business. Me hiring somebody else and retraining them to be as invested as she is not really going to be easy for me. So we have to look at those things too. Like, what is the cost of letting go of this person? What is the cost of, trying to replace this person? What is the cost of training somebody else? Like, these are all the things that we have to really think about when it comes to dealing with, hard things in our business. And this is my favorite, I think. Reflect and learn. We're never going to be perfect. Every single time we deal with a situation or we're not proud of our actions or proud of the way that we respond in our business, it's an opportunity to become better. And that's the only thing that you can do. You're human. And I think when it comes to handling situations in our business, sometimes we can feel shame. Sometimes we can feel anger. Sometimes we can be disappointed in ourselves. We can have regrets. But when we utilize those feelings and we look at those feelings as those emotions as information, and I always like to say negative emotions are so expansive because negative emotions really show you where you have areas that need improvement, areas that you need to grow, and areas that need to be transformed. Without negative emotions, without feeling those feelings that are icky and just don't feel good, we would never be better. So we have a choice. We can sit in the feelings and let the feelings take us over and let those feelings drive our actions. Or we can look at those feelings and say, I don't really like the way this is making me feel. What can I do differently next time? Or how can I handle this situation if it arises again differently? So I don't feel this emotion in the future because I don't like the way it was handled and I don't like the way I'm feeling and I don't want to feel like this again. Negative emotions are a driving force to really become expansive and grow and to really become your better self. And when you look at feelings like that in that way, it allows you to handle them in a more mature, emotionally intelligent way. When we look at feelings, it can be really easy to sink in and lose perspective. So feel the feelings, and then we need to evaluate the feelings, and then we need to critically think on how to not recreate that feeling. And that's truly how you can evolve and grow on a dynamic, expansive level. So we need to reflect after a conflict. No matter even if you think you handled the conflict in a great way, like if you're like, man, I nailed that. I loved the way I handled that. We still need to look at it and think, how could I have been better? Always, anytime you have conflict, what could I have done to make that even better? And when we start really utilizing our brain and thinking in that way, then every single time situations occur, we will grow, we will expand, and we will become better. It has to be intentional. It's not something that is going to happen on accident. So after a conflict has been resolved, take some time to reflect on the experience and extract the valuable lessons. What were the great things? What were the things you want to repeat? What are the things you don't want to repeat? And what was the lesson that you learned from the conflict? Because there's always a lesson, right? If we don't learn the lesson on a like spiritual level, like we just end up repeating it, and it just keeps on happening and happening and happening, because the universe is like smacking us like, why haven't you learned your lesson yet? Like, why do we have to repeat this? Because you should know this by now. So until we actually transform that part of the lesson that we need to learn, it's going to keep on happening. So if you have something in your life that is continually happening over and over and over, and you're like, why does this keep happening to me? It's because you haven't learned the lesson. You need to find the lesson. So that again is going to take intention and strategy. And we actually have to sit and think and utilize our brain to figure out what the lesson is. And sometimes we can't figure it out on our own, right? That's why there's coaches, and that's why the messaging is there. Like, this is happening. Like, I'm not seeing what I need to see. What do you see from this situation? And sometimes an outside perspective, not from our team, but from people that we trust, value, and want to grow with, the outside perspective will shine that light that you need in order to experience the lesson that needs to be learned, right? Okay. So identify the areas of improvement and strategies that worked well to enhance your conflict and make changes for the future. And then, of course, seek professional development opportunities. Again, coaching, talking to people that you value. If you have a mentor, these are all people that we should reach out to, taking classes, workshops, training courses, YouTube. I mean, there's so many free resources out there that you can utilize in order to really become better and see a different point of view and to really extract what you need to extract from certain situations. And also, like, maybe get an ideas for handling things that you're not great at handling, that you know you need to handle in your business because you're the owner. Those are the things that are going to be most beneficial for you. I've never regretted investing in myself. I've never regretted building like certain skills that have made me a better leader. It's only made my life easier, and it's only made running my business so much more rewarding and so much easier. And it's only given me more freedom. Okay. So by consciously practicing and refining these skills, you can become more adept at managing conflicts and fostering positive relationships in both your personal and professional life. Okay. So what were your biggest takeaways and ahas from today's session? Who wants to share?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest takeaways for me today is just going back to empathy and remembering what it was like. All of my girls are really green, and I've been doing this for 10 years. And so there are a lot of things where I'm like, why is this a big deal to you? I have a stylist that really struggles with confidence, and that's frustrating for me because she's actually very good at hair. And I have to remember that there was a time when I also struggled with that. So yeah. And then I think I also had a realization that at the beginning of opening my salon, I really marketed to new stylists by, promoting a very chill environment and lots of freedom. And then realizing like, oh, I have a lot of policies I need to put in place. And we can have a casual, chill environment that's really fun, but there still needs to be expectations and standards. And it's hard to like walk it back on that without feeling like, oh my God, I'm being so annoying, I'm nagging them, when none of them feel like that. I'm actually just being a regular, normal boss. So that is one thing I have realized that I'm struggling with a little bit. I did have kind of a blessing in disguise. My first employee ended up leaving, and it allowed me to sort of reset with everyone else and step it up and close a lot of those gaps in communication, and just step up to the plate as a leader and not be so chill and so laid back. But yeah, freedom with responsibility, it's a difficult balance.
I think too, freedom without responsibility and structure is chaos.
Yeah, exactly. And that's not really what they want. They want somebody to lead them. They want structure. A lot of my girls have expressed to me that at their last salon, they got no training, no coaching, no structure. And that's why they left. So I have to remind myself, even though that seems easier, that's not what they're here for. So, yeah.
I think one of the biggest, like I rented a chair after I left my commission salon for 2 years. And I think the biggest like lesson, because that was a shit show. That salon was such a shit show. But one of the things that I learned is that even if you have stylists that are independent, they still want a leader and they still want structure and they still want somebody who is going to run the show. But a lot of times salon owners, they don't know how to have that balance. And I think that's why core values, I think vision, mission, and I think just like having like a very, very clear operations manual it's just matter of fact. Like, I know this is what I need in order for this business to run smoothly. And like, I'm just communicating that this is your responsibility. And I'm going to hold you to the responsibility standards. Like, we still have tons of freedom. Like, it's still a great environment. Like, you can still take off time when you want. You can still, have control of your schedule. You can have control of your clients. But in order to have that, like, you need to do these things. And I'm going to hold you to these things. And that's not mean. It's just what business is.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know if I'm necessarily afraid of being mean, but more so them feeling like, well, this wasn't what was promised. I was promised, not that I've ever said, do whatever you want to do, but I think at first I might have come across that way. And I do have a very clear operations manual now. How do you handle when you make a change to that manual? Do you just inform everybody really simply and just say, these are the changes I made, please review them?
Yeah. So I'll do a video in bands. Cool. Or I'll do a post. It depends on what the change is. If it's a change that I know is going to kind of stir up some like reactivity, or it's going to stir up like negative feelings from the team, I'll usually do a video. Or if it's something that's like a really big change, I'll do it in person and I'll tell everyone on, in person, one-on-one. But for the most part, I just post in bands and everyone, I'll just say, like and comment, or, comment with the word read and understood underneath this post. So I know that you received this message. But for the most part, and I think too, like, not over explaining is really important, because sometimes when we over explain, it takes away our credibility. Like, oh, this isn't working. And I noticed that we had really bad responses with this. And this one client, and then this stylist. So I just think we need to make this change. Like, that doesn't make you sound competent as a leader. Hey, moving forward, we need to change our dress code. I've noticed that jeans really aren't working and they're not setting a professional tone for our salon. So starting on blank date, we will no longer be allowed to wear jeans. It's just like to the point. Like, we're not over explaining. And I think that's another thing too, that a lot of salon owners do, is they start to over explain because they get caught up in the emotion and the fear.
Right.
And we have to remember, we know what's best for our business. We know what's best for our team, because that's our job. And that's why we opened the salon in the first place. And we're going to do whatever we need to do in order to make sure that happens. And that's that. And when we always have that mindset, like, I know I'm going to upset people. I know this is probably not going to be received in a positive light, but I know that this is what's best for the business. So it's what I have to do. And I'll say that to my team too. Like, I had, when we closed for COVID, I have 9 salon suites. And I still charge them half rent because that was their lease. I still had to pay rent. If I had to pay rent, then you have to pay rent. It's your own business. Like, you have a lease with me. So I was just matter of fact, and I know it upset people. And I had one of the stylists reach out and I said, my job is to make sure that this business stays open. And in order to do that, this is what I need to do to make sure that everyone still has a place to work. So I'm going to have to charge you half rent. That's what I have to do to keep my business open. I said, I know it's probably not going to be well received, but my job is not to be liked. It's to make sure that everyone is taken care of and that they have a place when COVID is over. Did he say anything else? No. When they came back, I still charged them half rent for like another, however long we were closed, so they could make that money back up. But it's like, it just is what it is. And we just have to, again, take the fear out of what we're doing for our business. And it's so hard sometimes. Being a salon owner, it feels really lonely, especially if you don't have a partner. A lot of people don't care where we are or how we're feeling or what we experience. They don't care. Again, most people are only focused on themselves. And as a leader, we can't focus on ourselves. Like, that's just it's not a part of the role. So it's hard to release that entitlement of feeling that people should, want to know where we're coming from, or people should be empathetic and understanding to us, and they're not. And they're never going to be. Our team will never, they'll always put themselves first. They'll always do what's best for them, always, no matter how much they love us or how much they like working for us. Once that shift happens and what we're giving them is no longer suited for them, they're done. And we have to be okay with that. But we also have to be okay with doing what's best for the business and not really we do care about our team, but not like caring about our team because we know what's best and it's going to keep the business thriving and growing.
Yeah, and totally agree.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Does anyone else want to share or add before we end today's session? I would like everyone to make this their focus for the next 2 weeks. Where do you see the holes and gaps, and how can you become better? How can we utilize what we learned today to better train our team to become more self-efficient and really learn how to resolve conflict on their own? And then, of course, again, building that trust, really building up that open communication and utilizing this in a way that they can even be more effective with their clients as well. Putting off any difficult conversations, then you should take care of them this week. Okay. All right.
Thank you. That was good.
Talk to you all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you're a salon owner who is ready to grow your business alongside other salon owners who are motivated to do the same, I'd love you to join the collective. To learn more, visit opulentbeautypro.com/elevate. Thanks for tuning into the Elevate podcast. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. The Elevate podcast is hosted by me, Patricia Nowakowski, and produced by Opulent Beauty Pro. To receive my free business guides, visit opulentbeautypro.com/free or click the link in the show notes. You can find me on Instagram at Opulent Beauty Pro or at Patricia_Nowakowski_OBS. If you love this show, please consider subscribing. See you next week.